In the near future, overpopulation and pollution have become critical threats, leaving resources perilously scarce. Instead of addressing these problems, Norwegian scientist Jürgen unveils a revolutionary procedure called cellular reduction, capable of shrinking living beings. His first test subject is a rat, injected with a special agent and placed inside a strange, oven-like machine. 2 hours later, the rat emerges minuscule, proving the procedure works. 5 years later, in Turkey, a professor stuns a conference audience by opening a box to reveal tiny Jürgen inside. He explains that over the past few years, he, his wife, and 36 volunteers underwent the experiment. The process is painless, and everyone recovers within hours. To support their new lives, scientists construct a miniature village inside a gas-permeable enclosure, protecting the shrunken people from weather and predators. Over 4 years, the waste generated by the 38 volunteers amounts to no more than a single trash bag in the normal world. On stage, the volunteers reveal that some have even welcomed children into their tiny lives completely healthy and complication-free. The astonishing news spreads worldwide, and Paul marvels at the incredible achievement. However, Paul's mother strongly disagrees, questioning why scientists can't focus on curing her back pain, instead of chasing grandiose projects like colonizing Mars. A decade passes, and the shrinkage procedure has become remarkably common. Thousands of people now embrace their tiny lives, enjoying the conveniences and freedoms it offers. Yet this newfound popularity comes at a cost. Governments lose substantial revenue, consumer spending plummets, and major industries, such as construction and automobile manufacturing, face severe crises. Because shrunken people require so little space, their savings accumulate quickly, enough to purchase tiny homes outright. This economic shift further reduces spending, diminishes demand for loans, and reshapes traditional markets. The political consequences are equally startling. In some regions, ruthless African dictators exploit the technology to shrink rival ethnic groups, weaponizing size as a means of control. Meanwhile, Paul continues his work as an occupational therapist, a career that keeps him grounded in the ordinary. At home, he enjoys quiet moments with his wife Audrey, who benefits from his therapeutic massages. Despite their modest life, the couple dreams of buying a house, but their salaries are insufficient to meet the rising costs of the housing market. Then, during a high school reunion, the crowd is stunned when a couple arrives inside a box. Friends and former classmates swarm them with endless questions, eager to understand what life is like as a shrunken person. Away from the curious eyes of the crowd, the couple reveals more personal details. This man explains that his motivation was not saving the planet, it was saving himself. He and his wife sought a complete reset from the monotony of their ordinary, repetitive lives, seeking freedom and opportunity in a miniature world. The shrunken community offers everything they could desire: elegant houses, advanced equipment, and the finest medical care. Life as a tiny person reduces financial pressures and labor demands. Most of their days are spent enjoying themselves, as their accumulated savings are sufficient to allow early retirement. That night, after attending a lively celebration, Paul and Audrey return home, only to be greeted by a voicemail delivering crushing news: their mortgage application has been rejected. Feeling desperate, the next day Paul and Audrey attend an event promoting the shrunken life. They watch as a tiny host proudly displays his enormous home and his wife's exquisite jewelry, luxuries that cost only a few dollars, in this miniaturized world. Astonishingly, within a single ordinary building exists an entire city of tiny houses, a fully realized miniature civilization. A salesperson explains the packages available, each expensive due to the complex procedure. Burdened by debt and uncertain about their future, Paul and Audrey make the difficult decision to join the project. Over the next few days, they prepare for their new lives. They sell all their possessions, and Paul spends time training a new employee at the factory. Colleagues bid him farewell with a lively party, and that evening they host a final celebration with family and friends. Audrey's father attends, but her mother refuses, disapproving of their choice. A barman overhears the conversation and erupts in a tirade, insisting that shrunken people should not have the right to vote, that they pay little to no taxes, and that they are a drain on society and jobs. The next day, the couple leaves their wedding rings behind and travels to the special facility, noticing numerous shrunken people boarding the bus alongside them. At the facility, they sign consent forms and are taken to separate rooms for the procedure. Every patient undergoes a complete shave, including eyebrows and intimate areas, before being sedated. Their rears are cleaned meticulously, and any metal dental work is removed. The sleeping men are placed into the shrinking machine, injected with the compound, and within minutes, they are reduced to tiny beings. Nurses carefully lift the patients using spatulas, laying them on miniature beds, before sending them down an elevator to the shrunken sector of the facility. Tiny doctors fit them with new teeth and allow them to rest. When Paul awakens, a nurse brings him a regular-sized cookie, which now appears enormous. He asks about Audrey, but the nurse informs him she has not yet been transferred. Moments later, he receives a call from her, and shock overtakes him. She did not go through with the procedure. When her head was shaved, she panicked, realizing she was leaving everything familiar behind, and fled the facility. Paul feels anger and betrayal. He undertook this drastic change to give their marriage a better life, yet Audrey abandoned him. He is then taken to Leisureland, the sprawling miniature city. Most UV rays are blocked, and small cars roam freely along the streets. Paul is given a tour, marveling at the luxurious lives of its residents, yet he cannot enjoy it, consumed by thoughts of Audrey's betrayal. He arrives at his furnished home, complete with food and clothing. A delivery van later brings their original wedding rings, still full-sized, a reminder that his old life is irrevocably gone. Watching the news, Paul learns the US government fears the shrinking process being exploited by illegal immigrants and terrorists, with reports of shrunken individuals hidden inside televisions, many of whom do not survive the journey. A year passes and Paul finalizes his divorce, moving from a large house to a modest apartment. He begins a new job in customer service at a call center, befriends neighbors, and reconnects with an old school friend, though he remains haunted by thoughts of Audrey. In an attempt to move on, Paul starts dating a single mother, but their outings are dull. One night, while dining, he grows frustrated with noisy neighbors and yells at them from his balcony. Dushan, a friend, comes down to explain that all neighbors are friends and that disputes should be handled like adults. He invites Paul to the evening's party, but Paul declines, retreating instead with his rose. Afterward, Paul kisses the single mother, only for her to admit their relationship is not working. Disheartened, he joins the party alone, hoping to distract himself. There he meets Conrad, a former ship captain, who revels in the tiny lifestyle and comments on the endless celebrations. Paul remains skeptical, but then encounters the first baby born in the shrunken community, now a teenager. After taking a selfie with him, Paul finally joins the dance floor. At first hesitant, he accepts a mysterious happy substance from a woman's kiss. Though initially overwhelmed and nauseated, he gradually relaxes and begins to enjoy the festivities. Yet, visions of Audrey continue to haunt him. The following morning, Paul wakes on the floor to find the cleaning staff arriving. One woman, with a prosthetic foot, seems familiar. Dushan offers him breakfast while extolling the joys of shrunken life, the luxury, the parties, the freedom from work, but Paul cannot focus. His attention is drawn to the cleaning women, and he notices the woman with the prosthetics stealing medicine. It turns out she is Nyok Lan, an activist opposing shrinkage surgery. Her story begins to unravel, revealing a life of struggle, resistance, and survival in a world both tiny and cruel. Nyok Lan had once made headlines as one of the people discovered inside a television, but she quickly clarifies to Paul that she isn't a thief. Dushan, one of the community leaders, allows her to take medicine for a sick friend. Her story unfolds like a thriller. Back in Vietnam, she was forcibly miniaturized while imprisoned, barely surviving a harrowing escape that ultimately cost her a leg. Paul, moved by her resilience, massages her leg and offers advice to prevent back pain. Nyok Lan, recognizing his skill and empathy, asks him to check on her friend as well. Paul hesitates, explaining that his occupational license expired after joining the tiny community, but she persuades him to come along. Local doctors refuse to take her seriously. Together, they board a bus with other employees, and Paul is struck by parts of the city he had never noticed before. The bus winds through a tunnel in the city's outer wall, emerging in the slums. Here, the illusion of the tiny utopia shatters. Life mirrors the inequalities and struggles of the big world. Thousands of people cram into a single building, climbing staircases to reach the 7th floor in the absence of elevators. Nyok Lan introduces Paul to her friend Gladys, a woman devastated by tragedy. Her husband died during an illegal shrinking procedure when his gold teeth were not removed, causing his head to explode. Gladys now suffers from stomach cancer, unable to work or afford treatment. Paul does what he can. He administers medicine to alleviate her pain and helps her reposition to avoid bed sores. He also attempts to adjust Nyok Lan's prosthetic, but she is exhausted and asks him to return later. Days pass, and when Paul visits again, he learns that Gladys has died after taking too much medicine. Nyok Lan's expression is calm, almost resigned. At least she died happy, she remarks. As Paul works on repairing the prosthetic, he learns that Nyok Lan's village no longer exists, demolished by a government dam. She and her sister had protested, leading to their imprisonment, and tragically, her sister died behind bars. Distracted by the story, Paul accidentally breaks the prosthetic. Until she receives a replacement, he must carry her and clean the houses she manages. The wealthy residents of the city give Nyok Lan their leftovers, which she shares with the impoverished in the slums. Paul begins helping neighbors, offering advice and providing medicine whenever he can, and in return, they invite him to pray with them. 2 weeks later, Nyok Lan is able to walk on a peg leg, though slowly. Paul continues assisting her, and when they visit a neighbor's home, Dushan mocks him for the situation. Paul admits his fatigue, knowing the prosthetic will take weeks to fully repair. Seeing an opportunity, Dushan devises a plan. After cleaning duties are over, Dushan and Conrad announce that they are taking Paul on a special mission to Norway for 2 weeks, meaning he will be absent from the slums. Nyok Lan insists on joining, recalling that Jürgen had once invited her to Norway, and she never had the chance to go. Seeing her tears, the men cannot refuse. The four travel together on Conrad's ship, carrying large supplies. One night, Paul is woken by a strange noise and peers out the window to see another ship approaching. By morning, he discovers that Jürgen and his wife have joined them. Georgian's mood is grim. A recent methane leak in Antarctica has confirmed, after thousands of scientific calculations, that humanity faces an imminent environmental disaster. Later, Paul massages Nyok Lan's leg, and in the intimacy of the moment, they become unexpectedly entangled. The next day, the group lands in Norway and marvels at the untouched forests. Paul is amazed to find a tiny community living openly in a village without walls, unafraid of animals. The leader guides them through a network of tunnels she calls the Vault, the underground sanctuary, protected by thick metal, houses animals, plants, homes, and geothermal power systems. This hidden world could only exist thanks to shrinkage. Otherwise, life underground at this scale would be impossible. Their plan is to remain beneath the surface until the environment stabilizes, a process that may take 8,000 years. That evening, over dinner, Jürgen delivers a stirring speech, asking the assembled community if they are ready to save humanity. The room erupts in fervent agreement, and Paul is struck by the enormity of what has been achieved and the responsibilities that lie ahead.
This was only achievable thanks to shrinkage, otherwise people would have never been able to live underground. The plan is to stay down there until the environment stabilizes, which may take 8,000 years. That night over dinner, Jürgen gives a very moving speech and asks everyone if they want to stay and live in the vault to help people. Knockland scolds him and reminds him people in the slums need him too, while Deucin and Conrad think he's crazy and call this place a cult. The next day Knockland asks Paul if their night together meant nothing and if it was just pity. Paul assures her he cares about her and even wants her to live in the vault with him, but Knockland turns the invitation down. In the evening the locals watch the sunset for the last time and Knockland at least shares that moment with him. After saying goodbye to Conrad and Deucin, Paul turns to Knockland, who gifts him her Bible. He tries to thank her with a kiss, but she turns him down again and tells him to go. Feeling conflicted, Paul enters the tunnel and learns it'll be an 8-hour walk to the actual vault. This makes him regret his choice and he immediately starts running, leaving the tunnel right before they close the door. He rushes to reunite with his friends while a small explosion blocks the tunnel entrance. Afterward Paul and Knockland take a plane back to the USA. Seeing the world that will be soon destroyed makes Paul understand Knockland's need to stay. He then keeps helping people in the slums, determined to help them enjoy the last few days of their lives. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.